Welcome to Anything podcast with Gilbert and welcome. I have Tracy today. How are you, Tracy?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, Gilbert. I really am excited to be here.
I'm excited too. I'm excited too. What really got me, even we'll just get right into it. So we'll probably start with how you got into it and a little bit about your childhood and what you're doing currently. But I'd like to say what really got me into it is when I first texted you, you instantly got my description and the little bit of a scratching on my thumbnail of a picture, and you said that was ADHD. Like that really sparked me. Can we get into that? That really got me. I'm like, oh, I'm talking to an actual
That looks like
coach.
my brain. Yep.
Yes, that's how you described it. I'm like, oh,
Yep.
okay. Can you speak a little bit about how that's your brain exactly?
It's such an interesting thing. And you mentioned my childhood, and I will tell you, I did not
Yeah,
grow up diagnosed with ADHD or any other form of neurodiversity, although I'm interested in finding out more about my own brain. But
yes.
I did find my report cards from when I was young the other day.
Okay.
My mom had saved all of them in a little book that has these little pocket things in it, and I couldn't find it this morning
Yeah.
to pull it out. But I realized that on my very first grade report card, the teacher made a comment that I was talking too much and needed to focus, or something to that effect.
Okay.
And when I read that just a few months ago, I was like, I know what happened. I immediately, when my parents told me that my teacher said I needed to stop talking, I
Yeah.
knew I needed to be a good little girl, and I didn't want to be, in trouble. So I know I put on a mask that day and never took it off. And as long as I stayed in school, I was able to keep wearing that mask. And that was elementary school, high school, college. And then I spent 30 plus years as a teacher and different roles in schools. And as long as I had that structure, I did pretty well. I managed anything that might be neurodiverse pretty well. And then I decided I had had enough of education.
Okay.
The whole thing. So you mentioned, and I think it was before we started recording, but you mentioned don't mind if I look at some other things while we're recording
Yeah.
because I'm just checking out the other stuff. And I remember one of the things that I was just so completely baffled by when education went into online learning
Yeah.
is that I would have students who told me that their teachers expected them to look at the camera the entire time they were in class.
Okay.
And I'm like, excuse me? They
Yeah.
wanted you to what? I mean, that doesn't make any sense for
True.
anybody.
True.
Adults don't do that.
Sure.
Why would we expect a 14-year-old to do it?
To do it.
Anyway, so when all of that went down, and my first thought had been, we're going to go to online learning and we're going to make some changes and we're going to figure this thing out and do better. And we didn't. And we said, nope, we're going to go back to what we'd always been doing when what we had been doing sucked, in my opinion,
It's
for
true.
most students, most
Yeah.
teachers, most parents. And yet that's what we went back to.
True.
And I was like, I've had enough. So I then decided I would become an ADHD coach. So I went through this whole really intense training program. It was like 7 months or something. And it was great. And I really learned about life coaching and about how ADHD impacts life coaching and how to, I mean, I knew about ADHD because that's what I'd been doing most of my career, that and other forms of neurodiversity. But I didn't like life coaching was kind of new. So it was a different take on it. And as I left the classroom, then that next fall, I started realizing that without the structure, I was that little circle thing, that little
Sure.
blob on your podcast logo,
Sure.
and that is what my brain looks like. And um, and I'm having to learn to work in different ways because there's no bell that tells me it's time now to do the next thing.
Sure.
And, there's nobody to remind me the report cards are due next week. You've got to get this done. It's like, it's all up to me as the
Sure.
CEO of my own business. And it's a
Sure.
whole new thing. So yeah, I'm learning not only to support people with ADHD, but also to learn about my own ADHD, probably brain.
Probably. That's good.
So
That's so interesting. Is there like a moment that sparked the whole let me get into a field where I'm coaching and helping people with ADHD? Is there like a specific moment?
um there wasn't a moment. For me, most things in life don't happen in a flash.
Okay.
I'm a slow processor, and it takes me a while. So the first time I knew anything about coaching, my husband several years ago had the opportunity to work with an executive coach as a way to improve his own career trajectory. And he was telling me about it and like how it was different than other kinds of programs he'd been through. And then he actually he became certified as a life coach
Okay.
um, not too long ago. For me, it was this. I knew that people who have ADHD need support and help in figuring out how to maximize their time and organization and all those kinds of things. And it was more of a journey to figure out, hey, ADHD coaching is a real thing, and that I like the idea, and that's what I want to do.
Okay. Great stuff. Can we I don't really get is it neurodivergent? What is that? What is
Yeah.
that specifically?
All right. So supposedly there are people who are neurotypical, so they fit the normal model. These are
Okay.
the people who schools were designed for. They're the people who maybe the world was designed for. I'm struggling to really find very many people who truly fit neurotypical, but I mean, supposedly they're out there. So okay, whatever.
Are those the ones that are getting A pluses in the classroom?
I guess, but I mean, a lot of us who have some form of neurodiversity also make really good grades. I mean, that's part of why we didn't get diagnosed when we were young, is because we were doing fine in school. But that didn't mean we were ever fully present. It meant I was watching the butterflies out the window, and I still was able to
Yeah,
kind of read the instructions and catch up, but it wasn't that
true,
I was really paying attention.
true.
Um, but neurodiversity can be not only ADHD, but also things like autism and even dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, those kinds of differences from the neurotypical. That would all fall under the umbrella of neurodivergence. And it's a way of recognizing that it's a difference and not necessarily a deficit or a disability, although ADHD is still in the United States considered a medical disability. So,
Exactly. Okay. So, how does one figure out that they have ADHD? Is there like tendencies you look into?
yeah, there are definitely tendencies. And when I was in school, and even when I was beginning my teaching career, the way we determined if someone was ADHD is if they were little boys who bounced around the classroom. And those were the ones, and they were the only ones who, and they were in trouble all of the time because they drove the teachers crazy, and
Yeah.
that was who got diagnosed. And as we've gone on, we've been able to look at people's brains and actually do brain scans, and we see that the brains of people who have ADHD actually react to things differently. They have differences, and I am not an expert in that field. I've read the research and I'm fascinated by it, but that's not my area of expertise. I'm much more on the practical level.
Okay.
But what we've discovered over time is that it's not just those little boys who are bouncing around the room, it's also the girls who are watching the butterflies, and their brains are doing the hyperactive part, not their bodies. Although many of us also have fidgets of various kinds. I could pull out, and like I have all kinds of fidgets sitting on my desk. And I might
Oh,
have
okay.
told you a year ago that they are for, so I can recommend things to people. And I just have to tell you the truth. I play with them all the time.
Okay,
um,
okay.
so that's
Is
that.
that a way to focus or to get distracted? Which
It
one works?
is. It's absolutely a way to focus. And I
Oh,
don't
okay.
know if this ever happened to either you or anyone you know, but sometimes teachers get frustrated with students who doodle
I do
or
that a
write
lot.
in class.
I do that a
Yeah.
lot.
And and it is absolutely a way to help you stay focused,
But
not a way to distract yourself.
you already
And
you're
having that movement, yeah,
so you already
go
I
ahead.
want to just say you're already giving us tips here. You can go on. You can go on. So I'm already thinking, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so when
Okay. True, true.
yeah, when we need that little movement to be able to help us focus better, that's a sign that you might want to look into it. It's not, again, I don't diagnose anybody with anything. That's not my job. But even if you don't have a formal diagnosis, if you're struggling to figure out how to stop procrastinating or make a to-do list and actually mark things off. I have clients who are resistant to making to-do lists because if you put it on the list, then you really
True,
have to do it. You're
true,
committed. And I
true.
have clients who make really nice to-do lists in really fancy notebooks and love it. And then they stash it away because again, if you look at it, you have to do it.
True.
So there's all different kinds of ways to kind of skirt around the things that we know we need to do. Procrastination is a really big one, and that idea that we think we can wait till the last minute to do things, and it's always worked for us before.
That's
Well,
me all the
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah,
I get the
and
most energy when like I know the
yeah, you get a
limit. Yeah, that's
adrenaline. Yeah,
uh, okay.
and and it probably does work out most of the time. However, two things come to mind for me. Could you have done a better job if you had broken it up into a few days before? And even more importantly, could you have been kinder to your brain and your body if you hadn't done it all at the last minute? Because that big push of adrenaline that got you through the thing, over time, that's not really a great way to treat your brain and your body. We need a little bit more balance, than
True.
just that. And when if you're especially if you're in a career as an adult where there's lots of deadlines and you're always waiting till that last minute, that's going to create unnecessary stress, which we know is not good for us.
True, true. I'm always making sure I have like a pack of Red Bull on the side. So just when that adrenaline the adrenaline kicks
Uh-huh,
in, we're
exactly.
opening
Yep,
bottles
yep,
of Red
yep.
Bull and we're at
Yeah,
it. We're
yeah.
at it. Okay. Great, great. So that's me all the time. So what you're saying is I'm bringing you back to the
Yep,
fidget spinners and all. Is that something I
yep,
can
yep.
get into and will help me focus instantly?
I mean, for a lot of people, they do find that it helps. Yes. And you have to find ones that work for you. I'll be honest, this little silly thing, I don't even know. I mean, this doesn't even have a name.
Okay.
I ordered it from somewhere and
Yeah.
it's my favorite.
Okay.
I've kind of worn it to pieces. The others I like, okay. And I have clients
That one
who
looks
love the little
interesting.
magnets.
Yep.
Yeah, they love the magnets and they do all different things. Like you can put it on your finger and spin it. It's great.
Oh,
Or you can connect them together. You could get more than three. Then you can, and they're quiet. That's good. Fidget spinners. I understand why teachers didn't get those, right? Because they're
yeah.
loud.
True.
But if you can find fidgets that are quiet and don't, make everyone
Make
around you
everyone
want to, uh-huh,
join in.
hmm
True, true,
those are
true.
better. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I'm definitely getting one right after this. I'm definitely I'll look into it. I'll look into it and
There
then
you go. Yep.
yeah, so
Yep.
I've been going through this ADHD thing, just doing my research and stuff, and I'm not really sure yet. I'm not really sure if I do
Mhm.
have it or not, but every
Right.
time I do read a few things, it's almost like, okay, that's sort of me. Okay. I'll get into doodles every time I'm in a lecture,
Yeah,
just instead of,
yeah, yeah,
but it help me focus
yeah.
still, but
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's why
So
you're
you
here
have
though.
ADHD tendencies for sure,
Tendencies.
even if you don't have a full diagnosis. And that would have to come from either a neuropsych or, and in the States, a medical doctor can diagnose, although,
Okay.
yeah, it
Okay,
may be
sure.
questionable practice, but yeah.
Maybe. Sure. Sure. Okay, let's get into the to-do list. Jeez.
Yeah.
The number of times I have tried those. Jeez. And so when I was
Yeah.
when I was
And
going through your social media, I was like, you're speaking right through me. So yeah, you wanna give us a little bit on that?
right. So I just put out, and it's on my website, and hopefully you'll link it in the show notes or whatever, but I put
Sure.
out a little freebie that helps us to think through how can I make a to-do list that really works for me. And again, I already mentioned the couple people that I work with who just avoid them really. Either make it and put it away or don't make it at all, because if you don't write it down, you don't have to do
True.
it.
True.
And of course, it doesn't really work that way. Last week in our meeting, he and I talked about how, it's tax season here, and just not putting it on the list doesn't mean you don't have to pay the taxes. You still have to do your taxes. So,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
that it doesn't work that way. But then there's two big camps of thought around making a to-do list. One is to use a paper list of some kind, either have a notebook, or there's all kinds of, notepads that are made just especially for that. You can get one that has, new piece of paper for every day or whatever, all kinds of things. You can get them in beautiful colors that fit your personality or whatever. Or there are digital tools, all kinds, hundreds, maybe thousands of digital tools out there.
True, true.
Some are made especially for people who have ADHD, and others are just, kind of more general. And you have to, kind of figure out what's going to work best for me. And for me personally, this was true even before there were digital tools out there. I would be the person who found the most perfect notebook for me. I love the notebook. It was so beautiful. And then, I would get it and I would fill it out. And here it is. Oh, look, it's so pretty. It's blue. I love
Yeah,
blue. And,
yeah,
and maybe
exactly.
it has a pithy saying on the front or whatever. And
True.
it's got, oh, look at all these things inside. And so I would make my to-do list, and I might keep up with it for a week or two, maybe a month. And then one day I would, leave it laying on my desk, and I would be
Yeah,
down the hall
yeah.
somewhere and somebody would say something to me, and I would just grab any old piece of paper. Oh, okay, I'll just write it down on this. And then pretty soon I've got a stack of pieces of paper, or my favorite, I would write on my hand. I'm sure no one else has ever done that, but I would write notes on my hand,
Okay.
which works great, until you go to the restroom and wash your hands, and
Yes,
then it's
yes, it's
gone,
gone.
so
True.
that was, I didn't lose my hand, which was better than the pieces of paper, because I did lose the pieces of paper. But so for me personally, just having a paper list has been a fail for a really long time. So the digital
Same.
tools, when they came along, that worked better for me, except the hard thing that, and
So,
there's
so,
all
s-
kinds of
sorry.
great,
So just to
yeah,
get, so just to get this, so you recommend to do this for people with ADHD, that is. It
for
helps them
sure.
almost stay
Yeah,
organized.
yeah,
That is? Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Go on.
Yes, you need a list to work from, and then you have to figure out when you're going to do those tasks and how you're going to do those tasks. But if you don't even have a list, it's really hard to even know what the important things are and all that. So digital lists, I mean, you've got, if you use Google tools, there's a part of the Google suite called
Yes, yes.
Tasks.
Tasks,
And Google
yes.
Tasks is great. I've used it for a long time, and I'm
Same.
transitioning now, but I really like Google Tasks. I don't have anything at all against it. I'm just playing around right now with Apple reminders, because several of my
Okay.
clients have been interested, and so I was like, well, let me check it out and see how it is. So, and I get bored, so sometimes I need something new. So that
True.
right now, that's what I'm doing. Microsoft also has, I forget what theirs is called. I think it's just called To Do or something like that.
Something
That
exactly.
all of the major, yeah, all of the major platforms have a to-do list. and it integrates with all of the things I love about Google, that not only can it work on my tablet and my laptop and my phone, so no matter where I am, I can add things to my list
Yes,
or check things off
that's
my list,
yeah,
which
that's
is the big thing. Yep.
true, true,
That's the
exactly.
best part about that for me. But it also can come up on the side on, a Google Doc, on your email, your Gmail, or your calendar,
True,
any of the Google suite, it can come right up on the side, so you can check it against whatever you're working on, which is really helpful. So I like all of those tools. Um, I also get really complicated, if you know the truth of the matter. The best way for me to stay organized. So again, some people paper, and they are really good with the paper, keeping up with things, and that's great. And some people just have the digital, and that's totally great. For me, I need kind of a hybrid thing going on. So I
okay,
have to have the digital tool, because again, I need to add things and mark things off wherever I am, whatever I'm doing. So I need the digital one, and that one keeps me organized. But then, and I didn't bring them up, but I have a planner. It is blue, but it's not that one. It's a really pretty planner. It has a
okay,
tree on the
okay,
front, and it's lovely.
yeah,
And I use that to plan out, at the beginning of the week. I'll take my digital list and I'll look at my week, and I'll plug in the things. I'll make a list on paper, and that helps me just to picture it all better. I'm all for handwriting things. I think if you're in a lecture and you're doodling and you're taking notes by hand, that is, all the research says it's better than taking notes on your laptop. And I mean, we know that now. It's
true,
one of those
true.
other things that we know.
We know. This is true.
So, yeah, exactly. So writing them down helps me to reprocess, and it's that repetition, repetition, repetition thing, so that that's really strong. Also, whenever I repeat things over and over again, they work better for me. They stick in my brain better. So then I may even remember things. If I put it on my digital list and I've written it down, I may remember to do it without even having to refer back to my list.
True, true.
But anyway, it's a way for me to kind of check myself. And so I use a hybrid system of both: the digital list to make sure I keep up with everything, and then the actual paper list to be able to plan out what I'm going to do with that. So that's just me. And I don't even recommend that necessarily.
Okay,
I'm just saying the most important thing is that everyone take some time to figure out paper, digital, combination,
it
something
works.
else. I don't know,
True.
but
What
you have to have
works?
something.
True.
Avoiding making a list doesn't work.
Okay, okay. I was just about to ask. I was just about to ask. What happens for people that just can't get through to-do lists? I've tried so many times.
Yeah,
All the
right.
twos,
And that,
Google. Hey,
well, yeah, yeah. So you tell me, what happens when we don't make lists? Probably we forget important things,
a lot.
or we don't do the important things in a timely manner. We may eventually get to it, but we might, not remember to do it when we should. Um, yeah, I mean, it's my
What
my
what I
my
what I have
client.
what I have told. Sorry, you can go on.
No, no, go ahead.
What I've told myself when I do without the to-do list is if I don't remember it, it was probably not that important. I used to tell my mom this all the
Mhm.
time. You're forgetting this, you're forgetting this. And I'll tell her maybe it's because it wasn't really emphasized that how this is important. So, that's how I went through it. But
Right,
yeah, I'm
right.
I'm I'm a failed to-do list person, basically.
Yeah, and so I've been working with this one client that I mentioned before for a couple of years now, and we're still we're still kind of in that place. We're just
Okay.
beginning to figure out how he can actually make a to-do list. But it gets him in trouble sometimes. And thankfully he's managed to get out of the trouble. But when you forget to decide whether or not you want to renew the lease on your car, that's a
That's a
problem.
problem.
And when you forget that you have to get recertified to be able to keep your license to practice your career, that's also,
It's a
you can
problem.
probably get around it, but you've caused yourself a whole lot of headaches that you
True.
didn't need to have.
True.
And sometimes that costs you in time that you could be doing things you enjoy. Sometimes it costs you money. Sometimes both of those things, sometimes it costs in relationships because, maybe your spouse isn't super thrilled that you were supposed to go do this great fun thing on Saturday, but now instead you have to sit home and sort out these things you didn't do.
Is it
That's
is
the
it
kinds of things that,
is it an ADHD to never remember birthdays or occasions that happen?
oh, yes, that
Really?
definitely can, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, I rely on two things. I rely on
Yeah.
making sure they're in my calendar and I get a little reminder.
Yeah.
And Facebook, oh my goodness, I'm,
Ooh, that's a
sometimes even
lifesaver.
not,
True.
yeah,
But it
so
comes
if you want me to remember your birthday, you better have it on Facebook.
true, exactly.
hmm
The only problem is it comes when the day is actually, so it doesn't give you so much planning, but at
Oh, it doesn't
least
give you enough time.
yes,
Okay, yeah, yeah,
but at least it's
right. Oh,
there.
yeah.
True. So you're there to say,
Yeah,
"Oh,
you
happy
can
birthday."
scramble at the last minute. Yeah.
Yes, yes, it gives you the
We have
opportunity.
maybe we need to talk to Facebook and say, show us a week in
Just
advance or something.
and then the actual day. True, true.
Right.
Great. Oh, Facebook. It's a lifesaver,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay, so those are
Yes. Yes.
ADHD tendencies.
Well, one thing about ADHD is it tends to be a little bit out of sight, out of mind.
Okay.
It's like I know that people exist, but if I don't interact with them, if I text message from them or text message them or see the post on Facebook or whatever, I may kind of forget they exist.
They
Even
exist,
people that
definitely.
I know and love, it's like they're not. I'm not interacting with them, and therefore they kind of fly away a little bit. And I don't ever mean to hurt anyone's feelings,
True,
but
true.
sometimes that happens with
That
me, and I
happens.
know it happens with yeah.
So,
And
so, so
it's true of things too,
true, true
those important things that didn't make it to your list,
to the list.
you know.
So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so we're trying to crack through people like me who a to-do list is it's a failed career path basically at this point. You know, is there something? And I know it's best, it helps people stay definitely organized and stuff. But like the thing is, once I miss through one of the tasks, it's almost like,
Yeah.
is there a reason to really go on if one of them is not done? Yeah. So how do you advise
Yeah.
people go through that?
Yeah. So you get frustrated with
True.
yourself when you
True.
don't do it's like, and then if I don't have the list, then I don't have to
Yes.
but again, those things are gonna catch up with you, right? I mean,
True. True.
in the end, if it is important, then it's gonna come back around. If it's something that you need
True.
to do,
Yep.
for your own personal business, or if it's I work with some college kids and still with a few high school kids as well. And it's like, if you just pretend that the homework assignment doesn't exist, it doesn't mean the homework assignment doesn't
Doesn't
exist.
exist. Yeah.
It,
True.
you're either going to get a zero or you're going to have to make that up, or maybe both of those things. It depends on the
True.
teacher, you know. So, and not studying for a test, that doesn't mean the test isn't going to happen.
Isn't gonna happen. True.
It's still going to happen, even if you didn't
True.
study, and it's
True.
probably not going to go well.
True. Definitely.
So,
Speaking from experience.
right.
True.
Yeah, and I mean, those kinds of experiences I definitely did have as a student. And, I would forget to study or sometimes even forget to have homework. And I managed to pull things through
Last
at the
minute.
last minute, but
Last minute.
I did cause myself more stress than I needed to. And we didn't even have Red Bull back in the day. So I had to rely on just plain old soda.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. So yeah, that's ish. Okay, so what other ADHD tendencies would you really, call out and maybe have like simple solutions to?
Right. Um, one that I think is pretty interesting that I've just been learning about recently is called time blindness. And it's actually not so much that you're blind to time, although it might seem that way to people in your life, but it's like it may even feel that way. Like you just are oblivious to time and you
Okay.
have no idea how long something is going to take. You look at a task and you think this task is going to take 3 hours when in fact it takes 10 minutes. Or the opposite of that, you look at a task and you're like, oh, that's not a big deal. And then, you spend 2 days on it because it takes, and when you're getting ready to go, if you're that person who is perpetually late, um, everywhere they
I feel
go,
attacked. I feel
and
attacked.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. There's definitely those people who are just always late. And then there's the other people. And I am really interested in doing some research to find out if the other group of people who were perpetually 15 minutes early everywhere they go,
Yeah.
if those people also may have some form of time blindness. Like it's the opposite. They don't ever want to be late ever. I was raised by a dad that was very
Yeah.
much that way, and I am married to a
Really?
man who was very much that way.
Okay. Early for
Coincidentally,
everything.
everything. Like if still to this day, if my husband says, I'll ask, what time are we going to leave? And he'll say 4:30. And I know in my mind that means either 4 o'clock or at the latest 4:15. So
Okay.
I know to just be ready early because that's what we're going to, and if I'm not ready till 4:30, he's not going to tell me. He's just going to huff at me.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but and I think that is a different form. It's interesting. His best friend is the perpetually late, and he is the perpetually early. So between
Early.
the two of them, forget about it. It's just, it's they drive me. They're so funny when they're together because
Okay.
it's just
One of them is
um,
early and then the other one is not.
the other one is late all the time. Yep.
For me,
And I
it's
think both
almost,
of those are.
yep. It's a,
Yeah. No, go
yeah,
ahead.
continue. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of those things, your relationship with time is skewed and just as not accurate, right? And honestly, I don't even know where I fall because I'm so conditioned to be early, but I'm not always early if it's just me. If
Okay.
I'm going somewhere by myself, I think because I've learned so much about the being early and it's so ingrained in me, I tend that way, but I'm not sure if like what naturally is me. But I do think that relationship with time, whether it's being late to everything or early to everything, or if it's how long something is going to take, all of those things. I think people who have ADHD tend to struggle with time
Good time.
in lots of different ways. Yeah,
Um,
even
um,
beyond time management, whatever that
management,
might
true.
mean.
Whatever that might mean. Um, I actually sort of like being late. Is that weird?
I mean,
I
I
don't
think
want
it's
to be early.
also
I feel like that free time,
then
the
it's
15
awkward,
minutes,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
then it's
That's your
like,
time. Yeah.
can
Yeah.
I
And what do
just,
you do when you're early? Yeah.
true. It's like,
Yeah.
can I just get into it and
I get
everything
it.
starts? Or
Yeah.
it's already
Yeah. I get
started.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can just kind of sneak in and you probably haven't missed anything important because they were just given the
And
housekeeping announcements anyway, right?
I probably
Yeah, I
have.
get that.
I have not. Who knows?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, true.
You don't know because you missed it.
Because
Yeah,
exactly, true.
right. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
but
I completely get that.
the
For
adrenaline
sure.
of
Yeah.
like, I need
The
to rush.
adrenaline. Yes. It's that dopamine hit, right?
Yes,
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 we
true,
love things that give us a dopamine
true,
hit. Yeah.
true.
And being late can definitely do that. So there's another potential reason, right, for being late. And yeah, I don't even know how that plays out with the other way, but yeah, time. So, I mean, time management is such an interesting idea in and of itself. It's like, how do we manage our time? We don't actually like time just keeps on ticking anyway. It doesn't matter what we do. So it's more like we're managing ourselves and we're managing our activities more than, sadly, we can't really manage time. Anyway, that's a whole thing I've gone round and round with in my brain. But
Okay.
anyway,
Would be interesting to get your take on it though.
yeah. How we spend our time, like what do we enjoy doing in our time? Like if you had a whole day that, there were no plans, what would you do with your time? I always think those are interesting questions to kind of think about, and what brings you joy and happiness.
Sure.
Um, and I think those are important things to think about when you're considering your relationship with time.
Sure.
And one thing we didn't talk about with the digital planner to-do list kind of thing, is the very real draw of social media. We've already talked about some of the good things about Facebook. They can remind us about our friends and family's birthdays and those kinds of things. And I love, seeing pictures of my friends and nieces and nephews and all that good stuff. And that's really fun. But it also can just be a time suck and can really draw us in.
True.
And it's those, they're dopamine hits, but they're not even really good dopamine hits,
Yes,
you know?
definitely.
Um, I mean, honestly, and I know it's very controversial, but TikTok is one of my guilty pleasures. And you give me a couple hours and tell me I don't have anything to do, and I would love to just sit and
It's
scroll through
just yeah,
TikTok. And I learned
true,
so much
true.
about the world, and it's
Yes,
interesting.
yes,
And
true.
I'm not a Gen Z, for sure, but I do feel like, as in people who are Gen Z, I get a lot of my news from TikTok, or at least I did when I was allowing myself more time on TikTok.
Like
I've
on TikTok.
cut way back, but yeah.
That's me at the
um,
moment. Yeah, I'm doing like an
yeah,
hour
yeah.
max, and then I have this app that
Yeah,
closes
and you
everything.
can, yes, I have that on my, yes, and it's a good thing to be able to, and that's one way of managing your time, right?
Sure.
You can put that parameter on it, and it at least reminds you, even if you can figure out how to override it. Don't override it.
I think my Facebook is already overwritten. It's like
Yeah.
I
Oh
gave it
dear.
an
Yeah.
hour
Mhm.
more today. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I do it in 15-minute increments or whatever. I'll give 5 minutes, just 5 minutes more.
just 5 minutes.
Again,
I
again,
took
again.
again, yes, and it's like an hour or two. True, true. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So can we
So that
can
is a problem with the
that
digital
okay?
to-do list, is that it
True.
can it can suck you in. Yeah.
It
So
can
that's
suck
why
you in.
some people really, really need,
Stick to
one of my best
paper.
friends, like, she knows she can't use a digital tool because even if it's just, to check herself, she will get sucked in, and she knows that about herself. So you've got to consider all of those factors.
Definitely, definitely. So I've heard so much of the ADHD people are easily distracted. Can you explain a little on that?
So, I mean, again, it's called attention deficit, but in fact, it's not a deficit. And if I had, a dollar for every parent who's told me, well, my
Mm,
child can't possibly have ADHD, they can play video games for 8 hours at a time.
okay.
Well, yeah, that's hyper focus.
That's
It's
hyper.
it's attention, and it's almost all people who have ADHD have both the inability to pay attention well to things that bore them, say a lecture about a subject in school that you don't care about, or maybe the teacher's just boring. And they also have the ability to hyperfocus and do a thing that they are interested in and love for hours
for
and hours
hours.
and hours on end, maybe without ever eating or going to the bathroom. I mean, it's,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can, and both of those things are true. And it's not about they can't pay attention. It's about the inability to regulate your
Regulate the
attention.
two.
And
Okay.
yeah. So again, when I was little, I was watching what was going on outside. I knew everything that was going on in the classroom. I knew all the side conversations and whatever. Um, and I might or might not know what the teacher was saying, depending on if I was interested or not.
Or not.
But yeah, or not. As long as I could then read the textbook when I got home, I could figure it out and it was fine, you know? So it's that things that bore us are really, really hard. Taxes,
True,
whatever.
true, true.
Those things are just, they're not fun. We don't want to do them. And then if it's something that we love, and
We can
for
go
many of
on.
my clients, that happens to be, yeah, video games. Legos is another one. People who are artists or singers, those kinds of things. You can play music for hours and hours on end. You know,
So is there like a standard, is there like tips you give out to then tackle challenging tasks that are almost boring, but then you,
boring,
yeah,
or boring, yes,
yeah,
actually boring, yeah. So when I'm working with a client who is struggling to do the boring things, I try to help them set it up so that they can find the motivation they need to do the thing. And it's very often about, what's the end result, both if you if you do this thing, what reward do you get just from having it done? Or on the other hand, what are you avoiding by getting it done?
by
And
getting it
maybe it's
done.
a late fee, or it's a grade that, you don't want to fail the class. You would prefer to actually, graduate from college if that's what you're working toward or whatever it is. But being able to step back from the boringness and figure out why you need to do the thing. And if the answer is, I don't really need to do the thing, then maybe you don't need to
Yeah.
do the thing. And sometimes that even, this is a revelation that's come to me in the past year or so. Some things we can just delegate. And like, that's a better use of our time.
Of our time.
And I never like, I always, so there are that this is a whole different discussion in all honesty, but delegation is so, one of the things that I've learned to delegate is cleaning my house, like cleaning it deep. I try my best. If my husband's gonna listen, I don't know if he might tell me I don't do this very well, but I, try
Yeah.
to keep things straight and neat, or he does too. Like we work together at it. Um, he's great, but that, clean the tub and scrub the toilets
Yeah.
and get all the nooks and crannies and stuff. I've been able to delegate that in the past year
Okay.
or so.
Okay.
And it's hugely freeing, because what would happen in the past is I would be like, okay, I really need to do this thing for my business. I need to, whatever I needed to do. I need to do this thing. But oh gosh, the bathroom hasn't been cleaned in 2 weeks and it's so gross, and I really need to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to do this because this is boring and I don't enjoy this. So I can't do this thing that I maybe even want to do because I need to do this instead, but I'm not going to do this. So I still don't do this, which is just, I mean, dumb if you want to know the
Exactly.
truth. But
True.
at the same time, not having to do this frees me to do this. And then I'm able to move on and I'm able to use my time in different ways. So that's been, um, if you can figure out a way to convince yourself to do the boring thing, either to avoid the negative consequence or to earn the positive reward, if you will. But if you can't, then see if you can't delegate it or get somebody to do it with you. So another thing, sometimes my husband and I will just,
True.
okay, let's just clean, let's get this whole living room, let's get this done now. Let's, or whatever we're doing. Um, so finding someone to help ease the pain a little bit. One way I get the boring things done is with listening to music. I love listening to music. Another thing that is not true about my husband. So
Okay.
I listen
Okay.
with my AirPods a lot.
A lot. Okay.
um, like almost constantly. Like I love music, and it, when I'm working, I'll have nice, some kind of, calming music so I can
Music.
stay focused on my work. And when I'm trying to clean up the house, or if I'm doing one of those big projects, I'll crank up Taylor Swift and get going,
Get
Billy
going.
Joel, whatever. Yeah.
True.
So
Okay.
make those boring things as pleasant as possible.
Great. That sounds fine. That sounds fine. So for people with ADHD tendencies, what would be like a quick solution. We've given out to-do lists, uh, the boring stuff, making it. That's also, is there more tips you instantly like if I had fired you, can you a solution under 2 minutes? Is there like a summarized,
Oh
something?
my, there, I mean, because it plays out differently with everybody, it's hard to say exactly, but
Oh.
throw something at me and
All right, so are
let's role
there
play it a little bit.
small changes in one's life that can help balance
Mm,
the
mm,
two? There's the hyper focus
yes.
on the attention.
So one thing that is really huge is organization for people who have ADHD. And I don't know if this ever happens to either you or anyone that you know, but like misplacing the keys, wallet, phone, whatever else.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
the worst.
My
Yeah,
husband and I, we've been married for 35 years, and finally, here in this house that we moved to 2 years ago, we have a hook just inside our front door where the
just
keys
a,
go.
okay.
And every single time when we come in, the keys hang on the hook. And it's the first time that we've really had a good place and a good system that has worked beautifully. We might have had a couple others but like this is good. Like we always know where our keys are. They're always hanging up. Now, do we always find his wallet
Do
and his
you?
phone? Not quite always. I
Okay,
mean, we sometimes have, yeah, it's a thing.
it's a
Thankfully,
thing,
Find Your
definitely.
iPhone is a very, very helpful,
Essential
and
tool. Yep,
those little things that you can put
true.
inside the wallet
The
to,
tags,
we
yeah.
use those a lot. And you
Okay.
know what? Those are ADHD tools. They are. And
They
I mean, of
really
course, you don't
are.
have to have ADHD to use them, but they're so good to help
True,
people. But
true.
yes, have a place where everything goes. And if you can put the keys, wallet, and your phone's going to probably stay with you, but anything else that you need to get out the door, have a place for it and just make it a habit. Habits are huge. And one of the best ways to form habits is to stack them on something else. So let's say you're trying to work on the to-do list thing. And every morning you start with a cup of coffee. And if you can attach that, I'm going to look at my to-do list while I'm having my cup of coffee or
Coffee.
whatever it is. This coffee thing, this habit that you have in the morning, that one's well established, whatever that is. I mean, I just used coffee because that's
True.
me. But
Okay.
um, whatever that habit that you already have, think of what other habits you want to build that you can attach to it, so that you're not trying to just build a new habit out of nothing. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
it does.
that's
It
a
does.
really I've read several of the habit books. Atomic Habits is a really good one. There's one
Yeah,
called
it's what I'm actually
yeah.
reading at the moment.
There you
Good
go.
stuff.
There you go. Atomic Habits is yeah, and that's where the habit stacking came
Yes.
from.
Yes.
I read that one with a client of mine
Sounded familiar.
when it yeah, yeah. Yeah, and it's the one that both of us, it's really funny. We talk about it now almost every week when we meet. Like it comes up. Yep, I'm trying to build this and I'm putting it on when I
True.
brush my teeth at night or whatever.
True.
And so if we were trying to build a meditation practice, it's good to, fine, meditate while you're brushing your teeth before, when you're in the morning and in the evening. Those are great times to meditate.
True.
So, um, because when we try to just build a habit and don't have anything to attach it to, it can be really, it's overwhelming. It's like
It's
I can't, I'll do it 2 days and then not, and
and
then
then not do
it's kind of
us.
like me with my paper planner. Yeah.
Okay. And not use it at all afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
That's cool. So can you maybe give us a maybe little something from your clients that have like they had this and then now they're like this, basically like a
Yeah.
summed up fix that you gave them and stuff. Run us through the process.
Yeah, so let's see. What are some fun ones? So I the organization thing, I
Yeah,
have a client who, when I first started working with her, everything in her house she was a mess. I mean, she was.
yeah,
I love her. She's fantastic. She's so thoughtful and caring, but I mean, the house,
Yeah,
disaster.
it's true.
And we worked for quite a while, and eventually one of her tasks was just to clean off the table. And
Mhm.
she spent, the better part of a week. And then the next week she showed me, like she turned the computer so she could show me, look at my table. And she sent me a picture the next day. Look, my table's still clean. And it's been like, well, not quite a year, but it's been probably 8 or 9 months now. And not quite every week, but still pretty frequently, she shows me the table. Like she's got her table clean and she keeps it that way. And that is a habit that she has built, and it's changed her life. Has it fixed everything? No. Do we still have work to do? Yes. Does she procrastinate everything? Oh, yes. But her table is clean, and that's made a really big difference for her. So it's not, here's what I would say. One of the biggest things that, as someone who has ADHD, um, or not even, is celebrate the little wins, whatever it is.
Whatever it
And
is.
whatever it is. And I have another client whose last week, her homework assignment action step was to get outside.
Okay.
And when we talked about it in our session, she was like, oh, I don't know. I don't really feel like going outside. I've got stuff to do inside. I don't know if I can do that. And then the next morning, she sent me a picture of a tree in bloom. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I'm
That
outside.
I'm outside.
And it's these little things. And it's like, celebrate the little wins. Don't try to fix everything. And that's, I think, ADHD, it tends to be all or nothing, right? We want to fix it. We want
Yes.
everything to be all better. And that's not the way we work. We can't do that. We can't fix everything all at once. We can't fix the whole house. We can fix the table and then keep the table fixed. And then eventually clean the counter and keep the counter clean, like, and go little by little. And every little win is cause for celebration, rather than I've got to do everything and then I can celebrate. Celebrate the small wins, because that creates that momentum
The
that you need
momentum.
to keep going. Whereas if you're like, oh my gosh, I'm climbing Mount Everest and I've only taken 3 steps. Well, you've got to take those 3 steps before you can get to the top, and keep walking. You'll get there.
Get there
And
eventually.
ADHD doesn't want to take the 3 steps. They want to, fly. We can't fly.
True.
So, yeah.
That's true. So is having a disorganized working desk a tendency though? Is it?
Yeah. 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 For sure. And that's it's actually on my to-do list to.
To
And here's a funny thing. Yes, absolutely. Having a messy workspace, it's a sign of genius, and also likely a sign of neurodivergence, probably ADHD, maybe other
okay.
things.
Okay.
Um, and also, like, for me, I'm going to not only clean off my desk a little bit, I do that every 2 or 3 days at least, but I need to just start all over again. I'm going to take everything off of the walls, everything off of my desk, put it in the other room, and then like put things that I want again, like do it
Yes.
differently.
Got you.
Like, and I was the kid who rearranged my furniture in my bedroom, even though it didn't even always make sense. But like, I loved to read, you know, if I was going to do it, I wanted to do it big.
Okay.
And I do think that's also an ADHD tendency.
Okay.
It's not enough to just do a little bit.
A little bit.
We've got to do the whole thing.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I usually get into a space where like, okay, everything's cleaned. I'm good. I'm psyched. A day or two after, it's
Yeah.
like everything is on the desk. Like,
Right.
okay, okay.
Right. Right. And so, yeah, now I need to not only straighten my desk, I want to wipe it all off and
Wipe
start
it
all over
all.
again.
I start all over again. Ah,
But
I
then
get
here's what we, both of us, what we need to do, right? Is we need to spend then, 5 minutes at the beginning of every workday to make sure it's straight. And then maybe when we come back from lunch, make sure it's all straight again. And then, you know, figure out a way to keep it So it's
And
there
that could be
and
added
meeting
in
our
it.
needs.
True, and that could be added into a to-do list as well, right? Just
Absolutely. Yep. 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 For
okay,
sure. Yeah.
that's a solution.
Yeah.
Hopefully
That is a
after this,
solution for sure.
hopefully after this, I get into to-do lists and try to get the
Right. Right.
drive back again, and then see how that goes. And then I wanted to
So if you
touch,
go to my website, so
yeah,
and we'll put this on
yes,
the
yes,
show notes as well, but the if you go to my website, there is a to-do list a to-do how
okay,
to,
okay,
and it includes a little video where I mean I've said most of the things that I said in the video in our
mm,
conversation, but it also has a little worksheet to go along with it, and it is a
okay.
PDF that you can fill out on your own, and it just stays for you. And I'm really proud to have that out there. That was one of those things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Learning all of the tech pieces. So, but I do think it would be helpful for you and other people
Sure, and
too
other people.
to
Yeah,
just take
sure,
some
sure.
time. Yep.
Yeah, I had the website open. That's
Yep.
realfocuslifecoaching.net.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yep.
Okay, I'll look into the to-do list and everyone that's listening probably, but
Yeah. And
we'll
that
probably
just
link
got
everything.
put up there yesterday. So yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. That's
Yeah.
fine. That's fine. Thank you.
Yeah.
So another thing is procrastination. What is that? Is that an ADHD thing as well?
Oh yes, procrastination. Yes. And there are so many reasons for procrastination, but I want to start by saying what procrastination is not. Procrastination is not a character flaw,
Okay,
and it's not being lazy.
okay,
We don't procrastinate because we're bad people, and we don't procrastinate because we're lazy. There's another reason, and it's always about a feeling. So when you find you've got a thing that you need to do and you're not doing it, take a moment to figure out what is it that is the feeling under that that's making me not want to do it.
okay.
Um, you know, am I, do I think I can't do it good enough? So if, again, kind of like don't make a to-do list because I'm not going to be able to keep up with it anyway, right?
True.
So, just make the to-do list and then we'll figure it out. But there's probably there's always a feeling under that procrastination. So figuring out why, whether it's that tendency toward perfectionism, which is not a thing. People are
Okay.
not perfect. So we need to stop pretending that we can be perfect and do it badly. That's fine. Like just do it. And if you got to practice stuff to get better at it.
To
So
get
practice. And if the to-do list is hard for you, then take a moment and, practice, make a to-do list. And
true.
if it doesn't go well, then figure out a different way to make a to-do list and figure out that motivation behind it. But yes, procrastination. Um,
Is one
so the
of them.
biggest thing is to figure out,
Wait, so
yeah,
are there people that actually don't procrastinate though?
I've heard of these people. I don't know.
Really? You don't
There
know.
are those neurotypical people that I don't know. So, it's kind of here's what I would say. And I'm sure there are people out there who don't procrastinate. My mother probably is not a procrastinator. I don't know. She does everything. She's so
Probably.
amazing. Um, I didn't get that trait, but um, I think when I was in school to become a teacher, we were taught that we were supposed to aim toward the average student. And I guess that's the neurotypical student.
Yep.
And then I went out into the big wide world and I've taught in all different kinds of schools, big schools, small schools, public schools, private schools, Christian schools, non-Christians, whatever, all of the kinds of schools, little kids, big kids, worked with college kids. There's no average student. They're not out there. Every single kid, every single student is unique and special and has challenges and has gifts and talents and passions. And for us to continue looking for that average student means we're missing everybody. And if instead we could find ways to just teach the people who show up in our classrooms and who show up in our lives instead of trying to think that everybody, there's an average out there. There's no average person. We're all really unique with interesting stories, with interesting backstories. Even if you're 6, you have an interesting backstory,
True.
you know? And certainly if you're 60, you have a very interesting, there's lots of baggage you're carrying around.
True.
And all of us have things that make us um, amazing people. And all of us, have struggles too. So yeah.
True. True. Okay. Okay. So I'm
So I
just
guess those neurotypical people are the same people as the average students. I'm not sure they exist, but I've heard about them.
we've heard about them. True. Both of us have. Okay.
Right.
So yeah, so I'm just trying to shoot like lots of symptoms out there for you to like, get into. So another one is I've heard, I don't know if this is true. I've heard that people that interrupt people when they talk all the time. I don't know how true that. I
Yeah.
thought that was
Yeah.
totally normal until
The,
someone pointed it. I'm like, wait, that's you know,
the
you know, come on.
Yeah, that would be what we call impulsivity.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Like I don't
So,
need
and
to listen
I've
to
got
the
something in
question.
my brain. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. No, I already know the answer. Let me
I
just tell you.
let
Yeah.
me
Yeah. Yeah.
that's not good.
Yes. And so it can be, impulsivity certainly can be related to ADHD. Now, not everyone who has ADHD is impulsive
Okay.
all the time anyway. And some of us, um, processing speed. I call it hiker processing versus sprinter processing. I am a hiker processor.
Processing.
I'm going to take my time. I want to
Sure.
look at all the scenery around. I want to make sure I step where the rocks are not, because one time I broke my foot. I want to make sure I'm taking
Yeah.
the right steps.
Steps true.
And other people are sprinters, man. They just want to get there. And
Yeah.
they're the ones who all the time raise their hands in class. I'm like, would you stop it? Like, I need a minute,
Yeah,
but
too
I've got good answers too,
true.
But teachers reward those fast students who raise their hand all the time. It's like,
Exactly.
that's, why do we value that? That's not, being fast is not the same thing as being smart.
True.
Um, so learning to balance that impulsivity, if we have ADHD, and that is our tendency, and of course I know lots and lots of people who are like that, um, like learning to take a minute, because usually those impulsive answers, they may be right, but they're not usually deep. They're very surface level because they're the first thing that comes to our brain. And if we'll
Yes.
instead let ourselves process a little bit, even if we know a right answer quickly. But yeah, that interrupting and so that can make conversations with friends really hard, right? Because your friend is trying to tell a story and you keep interrupting, and like, let your friend
Yeah.
talk a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah. Let them
Yeah.
shine a little.
So right, we tend to think of ADHD as impacting, students in the classroom and our work habits and our careers and maybe our home because we can't find our things or we don't make a list of all the things that need to be done or whatever. Um, but it can also really impact both our social and emotional well-being, um, because of things like impulsivity or time blindness, time management issues. You're supposed to meet a friend for dinner at 6 o'clock and you show up at 6:45. Well, they may be already gone by then. They're not
True.
going to wait for you that long. Thankfully, with phones, that kind of thing is not quite as common now. It's like we can probably tell them we're running late, but still, they may be really frustrated with you. And if 3 times you're supposed to meet for dinner and you're late every single time, they may be like, never mind, I'm not going to meet this person again for dinner. That's no fun.
Yeah.
And there's lots of ways that those ADHD tendencies can get in the way of our relationships with friends and with, potential love interests or whatever, parents, siblings.
True. True. What is one thing you could give someone that's dealing with someone with ADHD? Maybe a partner,
Mm.
maybe a friend. Is there like
Right, right.
small things you give out?
I think that the biggest thing is, for the person who has ADHD to learn to communicate well about it and to make sure that the other person knows you are trying your best. Like you really are. You don't intend to not realize they would appreciate it if you brought flowers, or you don't intend to be late every single time. You really want to be on time and you're trying. And then for the person that's the heart, great book called How to
Okay.
ADHD by
Okay.
Jessica McCabe. And she talks about there's the brains, and that's the people who have ADHD, and then there's the hearts, the people who love them. And for hearts, it's real. I just finished that book last night and I
Okay.
cannot recommend it highly enough. It's so,
Okay.
so good. For like, we should all read it, because if we don't have some kind of neurodiversity in our own lives, we know someone who does, and it would
True.
be helpful for everyone.
True.
But really being able to understand and appreciate the things that we do love about that person, and understanding that they are trying, and giving them the benefit of the doubt, and then also setting up conversations so that they know how important whatever it is, being late. For my husband, for me to be late, is like almost a personal affront, right? Like I've upset him. And I would say we probably both have some form of neurodiversity, so we've learned over 35 years to figure that out, right? And the way we usually figure it out is when he tells me what time, I subtract 30 minutes.
Oh
And I
God.
know that's,
Yeah.
so figuring out how to find that balance between, because it really can be hard, and not to take it personally, um,
True.
when either the person is impulsive and interrupts your conversation and you don't get your thought out because they keep interrupting you, or whatever the issue is, to really communicate well about it, which is hard, you know?
It is.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are good ones. Those are good ones. And I think everyone listening will get one or two from those. I hear you. So we're almost wrapping up, and I always like to almost wrap it up this way. What are like five things just to get your personality a bit out? What are like five things you can live without? Materialistic, that is.
Oh,
Yeah.
materialistic. Well, I mean, we've
Yeah.
already talked about one is my phone for sure.
One. Yeah, that's your phone.
Um, yeah, yeah. So one for sure is my phone.
Activities,
Coffee.
something, coffee. Okay.
So we're gonna go coffee. I'm a bit of a coffee snob. Like I'm not high maintenance about a whole lot of things, but I do love a good cup of coffee. So that would be two. Three. Oh, let's see. What else? See, I'm a slow processor. I gotta think about these
We
things.
have all the time. Let's go.
um, one thing I'm learning about myself is that I really appreciate, having, like, I'm working on building my style, and I love clothes that are comfortable. And I think this is part of my ADHD
Mm,
or neurodiversity too. Like I finally figured out, like, I just want to be comfortable and also look
comfortable. Oh,
professional. And
yes,
but like
yes.
it's really about comfort. It's so funny. I have all these pictures of myself from when I was a little kid. This is a project I was working on,
Okay.
a while back. So I've got this little picture. See this dress
Okay.
that my mother put
Yes,
me in. Like,
yes,
again, I
yes,
love my mother. She's
yes.
fantastic. But so many of these pictures I have on these dresses where the neck is like this. And I
Okay.
remember, like, I look at these pictures and the material was like, ugh, super uncomfortable. And like, I can feel that. It's such a sensory thing. So I'm very much, so that's the third thing. I'm very much into
Sure.
comfortable and yet stylish professional clothes. So
Yes.
that's three. Um, four,
Four.
four and five.
4 and 5.
I mean, let's see. Four and five.
Give us something. Guilty pleasures. Give us
Um,
something.
guilty pleasures. Yeah, I love being able just to walk outside. And so that's definitely,
A
it's
walk.
not a guilty pleasure by any means, but yes, being outside. I live in New York where it's winter right now, and
Yeah.
I'm so ready for spring. And when I
Yeah.
first spoke to you, I was in Puerto Rico and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so nice because it was warm, but not
Okay,
too warm, and
okay.
it was great.
I also can't
So
wait
I
for
I
when
was able to get
summer.
outside. Yeah.
Yeah,
And so yeah, so being outside, I love being outside and going for a walk. I have two dogs, and so there's probably, I mean, five, we'll just say family and dogs, right? So
sure.
certainly my husband and my two dogs. And then I have four kids and they're scattered all over the country, seven grandkids. And,
Okay,
so I love to travel, mostly to see family and friends, but also to just go fun places and explore the world. The world is an amazing place, and I haven't
sure.
gotten to go nearly enough
Enough places.
places. But yeah, yeah. So visiting, places like India would be really cool, for example.
Yeah, you should.
But there's lots of places. Yes, I absolutely should.
You should.
Yeah. So,
And then, okay,
yeah.
okay, that's five. That's five. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
we're running out of time, but that was a very great conversation. Is there something I should have asked you ADHD related that you feel like was so important
Hmm.
to put out that I didn't really pick on that you could like?
Yes. The thing that I would say is if you either have ADHD and you know it, or you have ADHD tendencies and think you might, that it is not the end of the world, that it is something you can learn strategies to deal with. And honestly, it's just a different way that your brain works, and it's not wrong. Sadly, we just have some systems set up in our societies that don't play well with the ADHD brain. But you can most certainly find ways around that, and enjoy your ADHD brain. There are advantages of having ADHD, and I would highly recommend that you figure out, not you personally, you listeners,
Yeah,
figure out what is it about the struggles that you have that also are the positives. So if you have that hyper focus thing, that can be both good and bad, right? And if you are perpetually late, maybe that means, you're interested in other things that are going on. I don't know. Find the things that are good about the way your brain works and how that brings good to the world.
that's solid. That was a great way to almost sum up everything. That was great. So thank you so much for joining. I really enjoyed the conversation. You're a fun sport, as they call it.
Thank
So
you. Thank
yeah,
you.
that was really good. Thank you for giving us your time to get on and having a
Absolutely.
conversation about it. So yeah, so this is where we probably end. So